Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Um, I see a lot of familiar faces actually, especially from the peace process. My courtesy to the to Ambassador Christian Halas, Mr. Norwegian Ambassador to the Philippines, sir. To Ambassador William Carlos of the Embassy of Ireland in the Philippines, Mr. Alexander Schmidt, First Secretary for Political Affairs, Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany, sir. To Mr. Tim First from the Swiss delegation, Mr. Mary Collins, Country Director, Forum ZFD, Ms. Karen Waterman, Coordinator, GIZ, CPS, Philippines. Mr. Bapa Gemel Alim, Chairperson of CBCS. Bapa. To the esteemed members of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority Parliament. To Minister Jose Munoz. To Attorney Abdul Rashid Kalim of the BHRC Chairperson of the BARMM, boss. And to MP Noreda, Ma'am, I hope I was able to pronounce the name Noreda Biswari, and MP Susana Nayatin, I think she's here. Not yet? Right. Thank you. To our development partners who are here this morning, key stakeholders, CSOs, and academe, kay Ma'am Rufa, kay Ma'am Karen of the TPMT, the implementation of normalization. And we all know that the comprehensive agreement of the Bangsamoro signed between the Philippine government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front have two main components. Mainly the establishment of the BARMM, which is already established now, and we have already done some very good development within the first 3 years of transition. And second, the normalization process. As you are aware, the ratification of the Bangsamoro Organic Law in January 2019 paved the way for the creation of the BARMM, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, which replaced the defunct ARM, the previous autonomous government. The BARMM is a product of years of peace negotiation following decades of armed conflict. Upon the establishment of the BARMM, a crucial transition process occurred, which provides a historic window of opportunity for a region that faces a multitude of challenges. Despite only being in transition for the past 3 years, from 2019 to 2022, BARMM is making headways in laying the foundation for governance through setting up the necessary structure, processes, and mechanisms in institution building, and including building its human resources. I look back at the whole historic event in 2014 when the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro CAB was signed, in concluding the more than 17 years of negotiation between the government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. The CAB consolidates and affirms the understanding and commitment between the GPH and the MILF. It also reiterates the two parties' commitment to the following agreements or documents. The Framework Agreement on the Bangsamoro or FAB, signed on October 12, 2012, which outlines the political settlement between the government of the Philippines and the MILF and the process of transition from the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao ARM to a new Bangsamoro Autonomous Political Entity, now called the BARMM. The four annexes and the addendum of the FOB, Annex on Transitional Modalities and Arrangement, Annex on Revenue Generation and Wealth Sharing, Annex on Power Sharing, Addendum on the Bangsamoro Waters and Zones of Joint Cooperation. Then finally, the Annex on Normalization. In particular, the normalization process as outlined in the CAB is an important component of the peace process. The Annex on Normalization defines normalization as the process by which communities can attain their desired quality of life, including sustainable livelihood and political participation within a peaceful, deliberative society. Normalization has key components, including but not limited to the deployment of peacekeeping teams to bolster conflict mitigation efforts, transitional justice and reconciliation, TGR, the commissioning of MILF combatants, policing, and confidence-building measures such as amnesty and pardon, and transformation of the 6 acknowledged MILF camps into a peaceful and productive community. The mechanisms under the normalization include the Joint Normalization Committee, or the JNC, which is tasked to coordinate different processes in normalization, the Joint Peace and Security Committee, JPSC, which coordinate the security component of normalization process, contingent from the ANP, PNP, and the BIAB, which were organized. And we were able to deploy some of these JPSTs in key areas in the Bangsamoro. The Independent Decommissioning Body, IDB, oversees the process of decommissioning of MILF forces and its weapons. The Task Force for Decommissioned Combatants and Their Communities, TFDCC, undertakes all efforts related to socio-economic and development programs for MILF combatants and their communities. It assists the panels identify and implement socio-economic priorities and development projects that will address the needs of MILF combatants and their communities. The Joint Task Forces on Camp Transformation, JTFCT, provides overall leadership and direction for the transformation of the 6 previously acknowledged MILF camps in peaceful and productive community. While the Transitional Justice and Reconciliation provided in the CAB, the TGR is mandated to undertake a study. We were able to establish before a commission, what we call the Transitional Justice and Reconciliation Commission, which undertook the study and make recommendations with a view to promote healing and reconciliation of the different communities that have been affected by the conflict. While the third-party monitoring team, TPMT, where Ma'am Karen is here, she is also a part of the TPMT, monitors the aspect of the implementation of all agreements of the parties. There are 4 phases of normalization, which basically based on the decommissioning of the MILF forces. Phase 1 involves the signing of the Annex on Normalization and the completion of the verification and validation of the MILF forces and communities, while Phase 2 comes in where 30% of the MILF forces and weapons will be decommissioned right up until the Bangsamoro Organic Law was ratified. Phase 3 takes place to decommission 35% of MILF forces and their weapons as the establishment and operationalization of the Bangsamoro Police is undertaken, while Phase 4 covers the decommissioning of the remaining MILF forces and their weapons, which can run up to 2 months prior to the signing of the exit agreement. Updates on normalization. There was a relatively positive start to the normalization process, but COVID-19 pandemic has significantly slowed down over the past years. Efforts to reintegrate former combatants have been hindered by the pandemic by limiting the already scarce funding for normalization and restricting the mobility of implementers, especially in relation to the socio-economic programs for decommissioned MILF members or MILF combatants and their communities. Following are some updates on the process of normalization in the MILF GPH peace process. On the transitional component of normalization, since November 2018, 689 individuals have been completed their joint peace and security training. This includes a 26-day basic military training for BF and MILF members at Camp Lucero, Carmel North, Cotabato. Additionally, GPH and MILF identified 13 areas for JPST's deployment, including areas outside the BARMM such as Sultan Kudarat Province. On the 20 JPST Joint Peace and Security Teams, 12 were already deployed. Moreover, training of the additional batches of JPSTs are still ongoing. With regards to the socio-economic component of normalization, the Philippine government has committed to support in the provision of the relevant socio-economic packages. These are based on the livelihood needs and skills assessment of the BF members and their families conducted by the Institute of Bangsamoro Studies. And we have yet, with our counterpart, hopefully in the coming months, when the peace panel resumes its meeting, we will be able to agree already on the clear package of the decommissioned combatant. But there are already some interventions given to the decommissioned combatants, especially on the monetary aspect of their package. Currently, the national government has disbursed the cash advances to the decommissioned combatants. There are still 2 other components of the socio-economic package that have yet to be delivered to recipient, particularly the housing component. Also, the Bangsamoro Normalization Trust Funds was already operationalized, and this is already ongoing. Some of the projects were already identified, and hopefully we could already take off in the coming months with regards to operationalizing the implementation of interventions funded by the BNTF. In relation to amnesty and pardon, the amnesty proclamation has already been concurred by the House of Representatives and by the Senate. Also, the constitution and authorization of NAC has already been done. Currently, the National Amnesty Commission is being headed by Attorney Lea Armamento with 2 members. All are lawyers. There are 3 members of the National Amnesty Commission. And on our part, we were able to submit already the initial list of MILF that would be subject to the process of the amnesty and pardon. On camp transformation, the GPH and MILF peace implementing panels created the JTFCT by signing the TOR last February 11, 2016 in Kuala Lumpur. The responsibilities of the JTFCT are to assess the needs, plans, and appropriate programs and undertake necessary measures to transform the 6 acknowledged MILF camps, namely Camp Abu Bakar as-Siddiq in Maguindanao, Camp Bilal in Llano del Norte, Llano del Sur, Camp Omar Ibn al-Khattab in Maguindanao, Camp Rajamuda in North Cotabato and Maguindanao, Camp Bader in Maguindanao, and Camp Bushra Sumirong in Lanao del Sur. The key updates for camp transformation also include the conduct of exposure programs and initial camps. We were able to formulate the camp transformation plan for the 6th Acknowledged MILF camp, including its initial investment programs and projects for the said plan. Hopefully, in the coming months, the moment that the peace panels resume, we could already fast-track the implementation of the key identified programs and projects for the 6 Acknowledged MILF camps. With regard to decommissioning, a total of, for now, we just waiting for the remaining third phase of the decommissioned combatant. We are already on the third phase, so we were able to decommission around 26,145 DCs expectedly. That comprises the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, however, we experienced delay in the third phase, but hopefully within this coming months, we will be able to complete the process of the decommissioning for the third phase. For redeployment, this is part of the normalization where we have no substantial development. We were able to deploy initially one during the early stage, but until now, the redeployment of the AFP troops or units have yet to commence again. And basically, one of the bases for this is the task of the GNC to do some joint security assessment with the security sector to be able to identify which AFP units is already qualified to be redeployed, subject to the situational or security situations in the ground. While on policing, this is one aspect of normalization that basically not captured by the Bangsamoro Organic Law. What we have in the Bangsamoro Organic Law is the coming in of MILF members, MNLF members to be part of the PNP, Philippine National Police. And we have yet to settle substantial issues related to the numbers of the MILF members, including MNLF members, initially to be part of the PNP. Both parties decided to establish a technical working group, TWG, to handle the said concerns and issues. And hopefully, also in the coming months, we could already see some clear moving forward with regards to this. But as to the policing, based on the agreement, this was not captured by the Bangsamoro Organic Law. On the disbandment of private armed groups, GPH was able to establish the task force for addressing the disbandment of the private armed groups, or these DPAGs. And this is also another important task of the JNC with regards to the operationalization of the said task force established by the Office of the President. Hopefully, we will be able to do some joint assessment and even joint activities with regards to the disbandment of private armed groups, especially within the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region's area of responsibility. Now, drawing particularly attention to the Transitional Justice and Reconciliation, TGR, one of the key updates was the submission of TGR Commission of its main report a few years ago to both panels in the presence of the Malaysian facilitator in February 2016. February 2016, and publicly launched the report on March 2016. The report was based on various studies that the TJRC conducted as part of its mandate. It includes significant findings and recommendations on immediate interventions to be made in support of reconciliation and the healing of the physical, mental, and spiritual wounds of the conflict, as well as proposed measures to address the causes of the conflict and to prevent its recurrence. A TWG was also established by both panels, representing both from the GPH and MILF, to draft a TGR roadmap. This roadmap is anchored on the Annex on Normalization, where panels' action is being sought to respond to the recommendations submitted by the TGRC. On the part of BARMM, another important update also that I would like to share, which is tied to normalization, is the creation of the Peace, Security, and Reconciliation Office under the Office of the Chief Minister. One of the main key delivery of TGR actually, hopefully that we will be able to overcome, is the establishment of a National Transitional Justice and Reconciliation Commission, meaning TGRC institution at the national level. Here are important ways forward that I would like to share to you. As per signed peace agreements, the parties must continue implementation of other critical normalization components: transitional justice and reconciliation, Bangsamoro Normalization Trust Fund, and other security and confidence building measures, including confidence building measures on amnesty and pardon. Normalization requires political will, a problem-solving mindset, respect of the peace process architecture, coordination among related normalization mechanisms, proper utilization of allocated resources, and access to relevant expertise and technical advice, both from local and international partners. Parties should exemplify mutual respect, unwavering commitment, and adherence to the signed peace agreements to have just and lasting peace in the Bangsamoro and the rest of Mindanao and the country. Mechanisms such as the Joint Coordinating Committee, JCC, the Committee on the Cessation of Hostilities, CCCH, and the ad hoc Joint Action Group, AJAG, remain operational and very relevant during the implementation of the peace implementation phase. Particularly on TGR, it's an important step also. Hopefully we could have a clear way forward this time on this aspect. And the need to establish it at the national level is very, very key to the moving forward of any interventions under the issue of TGR. I'd like to end my presentation by emphasizing that pursuing for the full implementation of normalization and its components is important in maintaining popular commitment to the peace process. Despite the fact that transitioning from a conflict-ridden region to a peaceful and productive society is a lengthy process, efforts should be focused on those which are essential and feasible in the immediate term. When it comes to transitional justice and reconciliation, we can begin with the low-hanging fruits. It goes without saying it is even more imperative that all relevant stakeholders should be able to work together for this to be realized. Again, thank you for listening. Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Good morning to everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala Welcome.